welcome to the House of ZK Radio, which is a focused podcast and media channel exploring everything ZK, zero knowledge.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pavel. I am the host of House of ZK Radio. Today I'm here joined with Rarimo, Lasha, which is the co-founder of Rarimo. Today we'll be talking over ZK identity and what that means. Lasha, if you want to give an introduction.
Hello. Happy to share what we're building and what we're trying to change in this world of how the systems work and how this kind of new innovations could re-architecture our everyday lives. And I think this entire conference, attendees and people in Denver are trying to figure out what does the future look like, and we're doing the same, but with the focus on identity and how could our everyday lives be more secure from a privacy perspective, from this ability to control and manage your data and what you share when you interact with applications, other humans, and now the third type of agents, the AI agent type of entities that are coming into a reality. So I think overall what we're doing are the kind of necessary goods and tools for the future.
Awesome. Yeah. I like how you focus on, the AI agent space, because I think right now it's going to be more of a what is real and what is not, and I think that protocols like yours are going to be quite critical in determining that evaluation criteria, that we're going to find more and more Sybils, and we need to find more and more tools to help mitigate the risks of all of these. And I guess for the first question for you, it's where was the main idea, the inspiration behind Rarimo, and how has it evolved to building right now a ZK-based registry?
I think it all starts from the early days of what you do, I guess, and that had a big impact on our team and myself. I think I'm one of the few people who's landed up their first job in the identity space about 10 years ago. But it was not, no crypto existed, no blockchains. Blockchains were in their infancy, You only had Bitcoin narrative and a couple of forks as a token. Back then, you can call them the very early versions of the meme coins. But I was working in the identity space, but at a governmental level. Back then, we didn't even have this concept of digital identity or something like that. We call it mostly electronic signatures. So it was EID and electronic signatures of how people can sign documents or interact with the governments and stuff. It was a interesting journey. I saw all the kind of evils of the bureaucracy and the government-led innovations, and that's how my journey personally started in the identity space. But then I was lucky enough to join the space, the crypto one, in 2015, so it's my 10th year anniversary. I've built multiple products, I've done some interesting stuff, but about 2 years ago we were maybe now it's the time, from a technology perspective, from this environment, the ecosystem wise, when we can go back to understanding fundamentally how identity should work within this ecosystem, and maybe come up with some innovations that are now delivering the promise of this sovereign user-owned ID that we all imagined. And I think now why we're here and why it's possible is a combination of those things. First one is, of course, the progress in zero knowledge proofs, and that gave, I would say, this kind of completely new dimension of how privacy and the data management could be conducted in the space. And another point, I think, which was super important and why this type of identity or these solutions couldn't exist in traditional internet was that in Web3 we have now this ecosystem and this kind of open infras and stuff we can easily plug in, experiment, and like evolve and improve our technologies around identity, which unfortunately is not the case in Web 2 because it was built with different tooling, with different architecture, and sometimes this kind of skeuomorphic go-to-market strategies might not work. So I think now the stars are aligned and it's time to reinvent or completely build these new frameworks of identity.
Yeah. And like we're gonna explore different types of ways how you bridge that gap, right? Because you are using some versions of real world data, like passports or identity or even like credentials from these Web2 platforms, but integrating it into a new layer and having basically coming with a new meaning to that data within this. So I guess in terms of Rarimo, so I know it's a layer. I know it's a layer for the data, specifically for identity related and specifically for Sybil protection. So how does it differ from like other identity based like ZK solutions or like other like identity frameworks? So for example, like ZK Pass or Gitcoin Passport.
I think the simple answer to that is like, how do we envision how identities are created and managed in the blockchain or like the future of internet Web3 or whatever number you give it to it, right? I think the primary core difference between our approach is that we got rid of the issuers. So we enable you to self-attest and self-issue your statement, identity, credential. And it's possible. So that's what we find out. When you scan your face, right, all you need is a camera and your own face, right? So in any other framework that has been implemented and this bunch of regulation is built within this kind of KYC space in the financial world, you always have this kind of triangle of dependency where me as a user, whether I'm like scanning my face, whether I'm like tapping my passport, this data is somewhere sent and there's this third party who attests who I am. Which is like, I found this triangle that no one questioned before, or maybe there was no technology as well to somehow flip the formula, and I think like zero knowledge proofs that are this amazing magical technology does allow us to cut out this middleman and the third party. And I think like this is the core belief of why crypto was created. And I don't believe that we would have been able to have Bitcoin or any type of crypto infra with the same approach that we are now creating and managing identities even within the Web3. So I can't imagine like Satoshi Nakamoto going like with different governments or like banks and trying to get a license permit for issuance of electronic money and then building out like even trusted execution environments or whatever things and trying to run the ledger there, because it won't work, right? It won't work not because like the tech like hardware wise you'll have problems, but the very essence of why free sovereign money could only exist in a fully decentralized environment, right? So if the governments and like any actors can come in and like unplug the system, that's what we are defending from, right? So this is sometimes this word of decentralization itself, the world, kind of lost its meaning. So nobody really understands or questions why it was required first of all. And it was like to secure from coercion of the government or a higher power. That's why we are in this decentralized narrative world, right? And I think like for identity, it's the same, right? And we see like this daily and the more we innovate or adoption we see with the government, like the identities given by companies or like these different players, whether it's like biometric based or whether it's like some action based or like credential based, we see agencies, we see governments, we see regulation coming after it. Not because that they can prove that you're like not dealing the personal information right. No, mass is there. Zero knowledge does guarantee that this information is not disclosed, and it's like 100 times better than any identity solution that we interact with in the real world. But they don't want to allow it. They is this generalized, I would say, like status quo of the systems of how it works. And that's the threat I see with an identity. So if any jurisdiction or any entity is able to unplug a hardware or like special execution environment, or just like go and ban a company to operate in their jurisdiction, then we won't have a true sovereign identity with the true sovereign money. So for us, that's why this line is, if you want to enable digital identity, whether it's like facial biometrics or passports, and I'm going to talk about passports in a bit, it should be done only on a device level, so it's available, its distribution is already exists, so people can self-attest that this is the face vectors and of their own, and like prove their uniqueness, the liveness, proof of humanhood, who they are, I don't know, all this stuff without anyone attesting, but with the framework of self-attest. And that's what Rarimo is. So Rarimo is this max on sovereign identity and self-attestation. And that's what makes it completely different. And why we need, so basically product-wise, you mentioned the registries, right? So registry, it's like a ledger. It's like this ZK confidential ledger where you commit the certain statements about you. So it's not about like your uniqueness proof, for example, but as well like how do you interact it with your identity with something. So you can commit these very generalized statements, but in the future, as this confidential graph that is owned by you is formed, you can prove certain aspects. For example, you went to the rally or you came in to vote for this or that candidate, and if it's required as the next round to segment myself and just show how early supporter I was of you, I can zero knowledge prove that interaction. And I think that's what's powerful with this new sovereign identity, and that's what excites us.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you wanted to speak about passport verification. And I know Rarimo currently has two methods of that passport verification. There's like the full verification as well as the partial verification. Can you dive deep into why you need like these two types? What does it enable, and then what are the benefits that you get of each?
Yeah, passports actually has a interesting story behind it, because when it was started use case centric. Now I'm gonna like share the secret, but we were like sitting and like, why do we need this identity, like brainstorming like internally team, and we saw like what could be a great use case when you have a verifiable but fully anonymous identity in the world. And we were like, how cool it would be to like run anonymous voting in regimes or like crazy parts of the world, right? And we were like, oh my god, you can really enable that. But to verify that a person is a citizen voting for against or whatever, participating in this digital protest, we needed passports. And we just like, I just opened up my passport, we were looking at it, and suddenly we were like, oh, there's a chip inside. So maybe there's some interesting stuff. So we started digging, and we basically found this hidden gem that allowed us to make passports work in this self-attested issuer level, because passports have already been issued. We found out that the biometric chips have a signature, the certificate in it. So all you need is your mobile phone, tap your passport in, extract the data, generate the zero knowledge proofs on a device level, and share this proof with, I don't know, voting smart contract or sign in or whatever application there is. And suddenly you have out of the box the biggest identity verification network, peer-to-peer, distributed, running on the client-side device level, that can verify any world passport. And there's more than 1 billion passports available in the world. So that was like, oh my God, we can like hijack the system with this new technology, and suddenly, boom, out of the box, you can run elections or like this polls or like digital protest. And that's what really excited us. And that was this passport uncovery moment, which proved to be great. And actually, like, there's a lot of like builders and interested applications building all this passport registry that was deployed the very first time on Rarimo.
Awesome. No, that's great. And then you saw like one of the first use cases was essentially distancing yourself away from just these governments and regimes, essentially making it so that the people have a voice, even if these institutions or governments don't give it to them. So I know that you've developed. There's an app called the Freedom Tool,
Yeah.
and then that is using Rarimo as that form to create votes. Can you also describe?
Yeah,
more?
Freedom Tool is more like this open source framework where you're using this passport technology that was developed by Rarimo and the voting smart contract. So like voting plus this identity of the passports wrapped together is the Freedom Tool, which the name on its own kind of shows our intentions, right? So most of us were builders from like ex-Soviet countries, so the childhood and the years and the stuff we've seen around has been always this kind of a early tries of democracy within the society, and then a lot of frustrations, a lot of things that you grow on these ideals and values, and then you see that it's not just the humans but the systems don't work, and when the systems get overtaken, you can't do anything. And I think that we hate being in that position. So this Freedom Tool was something truly personal for us, especially like most of our builders are Ukraine based, and for the last 3 years have been a nightmare. So in a way, like us creating this tool was a kind of compensating our input somehow. That's how I felt what the developers did. So we created this Freedom Tool, which enables any passport in the world or any poll or any elections to run outside of the state, and it could be initiated by anyone. And this is actually the first time. So people have been talking about digital voting for years and ages. I didn't believe myself that there was not a real implementation of it, and there was this kind of missing pieces. And I guess while technically we had figured out as an industry how to vote on chain in a privacy preserving way, the missing piece was this anonymously verifiable identity, which was the passport piece that we solved. So bringing those together creates this absolutely new type of possibilities. And the fact that like this product on its own, right, the framework, it got like proliferated in like 3 places at the same time. So we had like Russian oppositioner running this anonymous voting and protest against the regime. Then we got like the Iranian activists and Amin Soleimani experimenting with that and really pushing it for his own activist purposes. Then we had like Georgian opposition using it for pre-election campaigning. So it really like you see these early signs of the product market fit of what a great I call it the coordination tool it can become. And this is actually like super important for us that we started from this, because it not only shows like our passion why we are in this industry, but as well, very important, like we need to make identity exciting. So identity has been compromised. It's like this boring stuff, you're forced to do to open a bank account, or you're forced to do like, I don't know, sign into an app. While it's it has much richer dimensions, and that's why we're like super excited that whatever we're building, all these tools we're creating around identity to enable the social interactions and applications that are not possible in a traditional internet. And that's the kind of a product the Freedom Tool really portrays.
Amazing. And I guess like expanding on that Freedom Tool, like other potential use cases. So I know like Sybil protection is also like one of the biggest problems in Web3. Like how do I prevent hundreds of thousands of just accounts being generated and then being leveraged and used to farm airdrops or spam transactions or do like other let's say activities that you don't want them to do. So I guess how does Rarimo fit into that space? Like I know with passport verification, especially privacy preserving, is there other methods of that identity? Like I know that you can self-attest with that. Are you able to do that with other data? And then do you know any examples of
Yeah,
that?
I mean, we've been thinking a lot, and I think like one of the narratives driving within the crypto space is this kind of Sybil resistance, like some call it proof of humanity, proof of uniqueness, liveness. These are all the same. Basically, it just like proves that you're a real person. It's not like the AI generated or like the bot farm run by someone like in a garage, and that's all the same solutions trying to solve one and the same problem, right? But and you can solve it in multiple. There's no like single formula. I would say you can solve it different ways. You can use passports as well to solve it. So you can do it. You can go and scan your eye, scan your elbow, whatever, and generate the proof and have a credential to it, and you can solve it. But recently, where we be like thinking, what is the cool part about? What is the value for an end user? Because I don't like the world where I need to get like labeled or like additional steps to be added on my side. If we're building the human-centric internet and the world, it should be easy for me and hard for bots, the experience-wise. So this is the value I think we need to focus on. And unfortunately, all these different methods, they could be effective, but they're not really user-friendly. So I don't imagine a world at a scale where to log into an application or to a message or leave a comment, I need to get my phone, get a credential, generate a zero-knowledge proof, push a button, pay gas fees sometimes, and all the stuff. And now I'm human. Now I'm in. I don't want that world for us. I want seamless. And so we've been like experimenting. That has like driven our second innovation, which I unveiled. And actually, like this week, it became this kind of demo available for developers to see. This is the first ZK biometrics done on a mobile device. What does it mean? It's like a Face ID, but a democratized ZK version of it. So you're able to make any camera on your device or your laptop to look at you, understand that you're a human, generate the proof of your uniqueness and liveness instantly and locally without like sharing any data, without storing any data. But a camera, like I would approve that you're a human, right? Because I look at you and I see the same type of feel. The camera instantly looks at you, understand that you're a human, generates the proof locally, and submits it instantly. You don't even feel. You don't even need to get your device out of pocket. You don't even have to push a button. I think that's the way forward. Sometimes, like all these great technologies that are taking over the world, there was this kind of saying in car industry that whatever you want to see that will be available in the market in 5 years' time, you should look at Mercedes S-Class. So all the like this high fancy buttons and like toolings and technologies would go there, and in a 5 years time it would be spread as a kind of standard into different automobiles. The same stuff I think will happen with this proof of humanness and liveness. We have this amazing technology by Apple, Face ID, which is like seamless, right? You feel it. It's like it looks at you, it just goes this little green button and like the green circle,
And then you're in.
then you're in. I think that's that's the experience. When people are used to that experience, like how the heck are you gonna like change that back and tell them like get your device, or now you need to run somewhere in this room or another city to retrieve your whatever access? No, that's not gonna work. So I'm a believer in this democratized version of Face ID, and that's actually what we're working on, and I think will be our next amazing product on the market that will completely transform the user experience. And everybody has been talking about, and I think that's the way.
Awesome. Yeah. And I guess like final question before we wrap up, and where do you see yourself in terms of continuous development of Rarimo? Where do you see Rarimo being like the central player of in the space? Would you see like people using Rarimo for the exclusively for like the Sybil or bot protections, or would you see it being used as more of like a data recovery or proof of humanity type? Where do you see that development?
Yeah, overall I would say all of it, because what Rarimo really is as a technology is this identity layer with all the attestations, but in a fully privacy preserving way. So it's like this kind of ZK social identity layer where it could be leveraged by any dApp builders in any ecosystem. So it does not have to be only EVM ecosystem. We're already experimenting with like Bitcoin network, with like other non-EVM chains. So how can you bring this identity, and within identity all this enablement in terms of access management, in terms of like this recovery aspects, in terms of like the recovery is a great example, right? And I demoed this wallet where you don't need seed phrases and you can like self-recover. I think that's powerful as well from a user experience perspective. And yeah, so this Rarimo as this basic layer of attestations around identity is how do we see that? Actually, it's built on the standard, upcoming standard. It's ERC 7812 that has been co-authored between some of the contributors to Rarimo and Vitalik himself. So it really shows this new type of identity management done in a permissionless way, and how can we enrich those registries and then make this single state of identity reusable from application to application. Because once again, it's not only about the security, it's about the cool user experience we can deliver with identity. And I guess there's a place for Rarimo.
Awesome. Yeah. And I guess before we wrap up, any announcements, anything that you would want builders in the ecosystem to know about Rarimo? Anything that you final thoughts essentially?
The final thoughts is that layer 2, so it will go live as a layer 2, so like fully permissionless registry on top of ETH on 10th of March.
Oh wow, that's coming up.
Yeah, and basically it doesn't go like with nothing in it. It goes like live with the compatibility with 90% of the world passports. So if you want to like integrate and start building on it, it will be ready.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lasha, and it was a pleasure speaking with you. Regards to this topic, I think you've really explored the identity space within Rarimo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.